Transgender people tend to have the brain structure that confirms their identity that they identify with. And you can look that up. That's a fact.
I will look that up.
Yeah, it's fact.
I will look that up and I won't find it.
Yeah.
It's not a fact. It's not a fact.
Should we all pull out Google really quick and look?
So you're saying a trans man has the brain of a woman?
No.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope all is good wherever you are. In this video, we're going to watch Matt Walsh debate a trans activist on suicidality in the trans community.
So you've talked a lot about the mental illness and depressed and anxious population in the trans community, but you don't talk about the happy people in the trans community and how these preventative measures of, let's say, like puberty and the surgeries that go for gender affirmation and how these are life-changing and life-saving. I know many people...
How do you know?
Oh, okay. 1 second, if I can finish my conversation.
Okay.
Many people in my life have had these interventions made, and it's saved their lives. I can list dozens of people in my life. So what do you have to say for...
You can list dozens of people who had surgeries and drugs as children and would be dead today if they hadn't?
I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. Dozens of people who have had interventions, including gender affirming, let's say therapies, yes, hormones, surgeries, that have made their lives better. I'm not saying it didn't force them to commit suicide, but it made their lives better. What do you have to say for the happy trans community?
I guess I would throw back at you first, because the burden of proof is on you on this one. And I'll explain why the burden of proof is on you. Because, as I went over in the talk, for thousands of years, human beings existed, and there was no such thing as trying to medically transition people into another gender. And as far as we know, there was no suicide epidemic because of it. And then in the last few years, people like yourself have come along and said, we desperately need to do this or people will be in despair and they might kill themselves. So you are making a claim that contradicts common sense, science, biology, also the entire experience of the whole history of the human race. And so what that means is that the burden of proof is on you to support it. And so I'm going to ask you, you said that people need this stuff so they can live happier lives and potentially it'd be life-saving, you said even. Aside from your anecdotes of your friends who told you so, how do you know that?
Okay, so thinking back to when I was 16 in an anatomy class, when I learned that transgender people tend to have the brain structure that confirms their identity that they identify with. And you can look that up. That's a fact.
I will look that up.
Yeah, it's a fact.
I will look that up and I won't find it.
Yeah.
It's not a fact. It's not a fact.
Should we all pull out Google really quick and look?
So you're saying a trans man has the brain of a woman?
No.
This girl whipped out the phone and said, yeah, it's a quick Google search, and searched absolutely nothing. And you can see nobody's having any of this BS. Matt's not having it. This fellow's not having it. This older lady who's, from a generation where they had real issues going on, these people aren't having it back here. This girl's just laughing it off. Listen, you've just said something absolutely ridiculous, that a man can be born with a woman's brain, and now people are looking at you funny and calling you out on your BS. And listen, ladies, gentlemen, I am no fashionista by any means. I'm not here to shame anybody on fashion. But I will say one thing, same if I went to a business interview. If I was going to an event where I had the complete opposing view of the person I was going to try to debate, ask a question to, and I knew that said person was very knowledgeable about the topic at hand, and I also knew that this event would be filmed, I would not show up with a tie-dye dolphin shirt. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I'm saying that a trans man who identifies as a man will tend to have similar brain structure that a cis man would.
And where did you get that from?
Look it up. It's literally, I'm telling you, I learned it from my anatomy class when I was 16. And I looked up the fact before I walked up here because I knew that you would ask.
Okay. That's not true, but it also doesn't answer the question. So let's try to stay focused on one false claim at a time if we can, because we might get bogged down.
Okay.
So you said You actually started by saying that blocking puberty, which is chemical castration of a child,
Just one example, yeah.
yeah, is life-saving.
It can be.
How do you know?
Because there are children who have been suicidal that have had these interventions made.
What children? How do you know? And how many children have had that done
Me personally,
and then
I
are still
haven't met
suicidal?
children. Me personally, I haven't met enough trans children to answer that question.
Okay.
But I know
You
that
are
the
making-
research exists.
You're making this statement, you're stating it as a fact in front of all these people. There must be a reason, there must be something that you encountered that led you to this rather radical conclusion that to save a child's life, you have to chemically castrate him.
Not every child. No, sir.
Okay, well, that is what you just said. The drugs we give to kids for puberty blockers, so-called puberty blockers, originally are cancer drugs used to treat prostate cancer. They're also used to chemically castrate sex offenders and child rapists. Now we give them to physically healthy kids. You're saying that we need to do that or they will die. And so one last time I'm going to ask you, what evidence do you have of that remarkable claim?
I don't think I claimed that every child would benefit from that.
Well, no, I didn't say you did.
Okay,
You
well,
said
you-
that
no,
puberty
you did,
blockers
you
are.
did.
You said puberty blockers are life-saving. What
I
evidence do
said
you have for that?
they can be.
So
The
how do you
evidence
know?
is the encounters with patients who have had these procedures done, and it has saved their, I don't want to say it saved their lives, but it has made their lives better. I can't confirm whether or not they're alive right this second, but there are children that it has helped. So what do you have to say for the happy trans community who has benefited from these procedures? That's my question
I guess what I
for
have
you.
to say is that your entire question is built on a whole stack of false premises that you can't begin to even remotely defend. So it's a faulty question from the start. I reject your premise. I absolutely reject that there are any kids who need to be chemically castrated in order to be happy.
Okay, let's...
I reject that.
You can't show up and present anecdotal evidence as fact. In this case, there was not even anecdotal evidence. She's like, well, you know, it's life-saving. Well, whose life did it save? Well, I don't know. I'm sure it saved some lives. I'm not sure, though. And then Matt says, well, you said it was life-saving. You know, you said it was going to save some kids' lives. Well, I never said kids, and I'm not sure, but it's what I'm told. I mean, come on, lady. We know that the suicide rate in this community is the highest 7 or 8 years after transitioning. We're going to look back, mark my words, we're going to look back in 20, 30 years at this time in history, and we're going to think, what in the name of God were we doing to these poor little children, castrating young boys, doing double mastectomies on girls? What we should be teaching these young kids is that there's no right or wrong way to be a little boy or a little girl. You're not born in the wrong body. God gave you the specific body that was for you. And if you have gender dysphoria, which is unfortunate if somebody would have that, it's a real thing, but it's not the numbers that this community will try to tell you it. And you don't fix a problem with the mind by altering someone's body. It's not how it works. They need a psychologist. Kids have to go through puberty to get proper brain development. Putting them on puberty blocker is not going to help. Have you all ever seen how they give a little girl a fake penis? Chopping the parts of the forearm and making this weird mangled up apparatus. If you read detransitioners' websites, they all are depressed because they can't have a proper mate, a proper sexual relationship with a woman. And obviously, because it's not real, this thing doesn't work. I feel bad for these little kids that get talked into this by these psychologists that are probably paid off by Big Pharma, because this is a massive industry, that are the victims of bad parenting. You know, and parents, like, they're told this, oh yeah, well, it's good for your kids. What would you rather have, a trans kid or a kid that's gonna off themselves? I feel for the parents, but at the same time, there's this, you have to be knowledgeable on the topic. You gotta stand up for the kids. A lot of times, parents are the issues in this community. Why is it that all these parents that have these trans kids all seem like they actually want a trans kid? They all seem a little bit off the charts. They all seem a little bit off their rocker. I went down the rabbit hole of this a few months ago when I started this channel, and the stats that this community gives you are all off. Hope you all enjoyed this video. Comment, like, subscribe, be respectful. I will catch you all in the next video. Peace out, everybody.